Joining us now is Dholakia, partner on the growth investment practice team at Bessemer Venture Partners. There's so much in your portfolio that's interesting and highly relevant to this.
Yes.
But could I just start by asking what your net takeaway from everything Kimi K3's been?
All consuming Kimi K3 in the news, and I think it's a great thing. I really do. I think we have a moment in time where I'm a free trade, competition is good for us kind of a guy. I believe that the right tool for the job is the right answer for our enterprises, for customers, and they will use frontier lab models like Anthropic for the stuff that they need to use that for, and they will use open source models from China and other places in the world over time. We need our open source U.S. and Western-based open source models, open weight models to get better and bigger, and that's great. And that will happen if we have free competition with the Chinese models. But that's my general take. I'm very positive on the development.
Let me ask you one sort of final specific thing on Kimi K3. Bessemer is an investor in Anthropic. One of the questions posed was, okay, if a startup of Moonshot's size and scale and resources can put out a 2.8 trillion parameter model, price it such that it did, what's the moat of an Anthropic or an OpenAI? Why do we value them such as we do? Your industry colleague, Som Mohamedi from Greylock, was on the show on Friday, and he basically said, well, Anthropic's got a real business with multiple streams of revenue. It's completely different.
Yeah.
But where would you put your response to that question?
Because we're big investors in Anthropic and they're in the quiet period, I can't comment specifically on them, but I will say about the frontier models generally, what I would say about their moats, they're still at the frontier. They're still extending the lead. We're in a stage of recursive learning improvements to the models. The models are being released faster and faster as we get ever better capabilities. I believe the frontier will continue to stay at the frontier, and you'll have others that will catch up. Now, there's also a lot of talk on X right now around whether there should be. Secretary Bessemer mentioned, should we be going after IP theft and distillation, and how do we feel about that? I'm a free markets guy, but I don't believe in IP theft and distillation. So I do hope that we will figure out ways to better protect the IP of the closed models and on the frontier. But that would be my take on that.
Samir, it's been way too long since you've been on Bloomberg Tech. So take us inside the portfolio company's perspective on that. You have concern about IP theft on behalf. How would that impact if there were to be regulation or there were to be an action protecting those companies that you're backing and investing in?
Yeah, I think at the frontier, it's important that they put up defenses. I think it's important that there are protections for IP. I think that we'll see those model providers are going to continue to explode in growth. I keep trying to explain to my colleagues in the market just this, to get a sense of the size of this market, Ed, is astonishing. This is like having the opportunity to invest in Rockefeller's Standard Oil in 1870.
Right.
The market for intelligence is the largest market. I used to say in technology, it's the largest market in human history. And so the frontier model, the penetration in enterprises is so tiny relative to what it will be, that the frontier models will continue to excel, but the open source ecosystem is going to continue to flourish. It should. Companies like Fireworks, we'll talk about,
let's talk about
are going to benefit from that.
The big news of late, so Fireworks took ARR from 100 million to 1 billion, but they did it in less than a year and a half.
Yeah.
And you're, with respect, somebody with experience in software, you're basically saying we've not seen that growth trajectory
before.
It's extraordinary.
And I used to be the CEO of a SaaS company. I took it public in 2017. To build our SaaS company to IPO scale took us 8 years. These guys are adding 100 million of ARR per month. That took us years and years and years of.
Do you know what's interesting about that? Sorry to interrupt you. Those guys at startups like Fireworks, they're good at software, right? Yeah. They're good at AI. Are they good at go-to-market? Yeah. Do you know what I mean? So they're able to do that 100 million of ARR per month.
Yeah.
have they been able to keep up with themselves on the sales channels and like having good operational leaders in that business?
Yeah, well, I'll tell you, it's one of the biggest reasons we invested behind Fireworks, and we're so excited to back them. The CEO, Lynn, is an incredible strategist, a deep technologist, came from Meta, was leading the team from Meta that built PyTorch, which is sort of the leading open source framework for machine learning. But she's recently brought in George Hu as president. And George and I got to work together at Twilio after they acquired my last company, SendGrid. And I will tell you without hesitation, George is one of the absolute best go-to-market leaders, software executives in the industry. He was the COO at Salesforce, then the COO at Twilio. And so the companies that are scaling at this pace and have the wisdom to bring in some folks that have seen scale and growth and can put in process and operational rigor, we think are going to be real winners in this market, and that's why we think Fireworks will be the winner in their market.
To lots of people, AI is still quite abstract. It can mean lots of different things. So, you know, at Bessemer, you guys basically say you invest across the stack, the model layer, the infrastructure layer, the vertical application layer, you know, but those are all quite different things. Like Elise AI is a high-flying portfolio company of yours.
Indeed.
But they all have slightly different factors behind them.
They do, and you have to look at each of the markets, and every business is different. So, but what's extraordinary is just the demand and the pull from the market for all of them. You're just seeing exponential growth curves like we have never seen.
That's what they have in common.
That's what they have in common. After I've been in software now for 31 years, I've never seen, you know, Elise AI selling AI to property management companies. You know, they posted publicly they crossed 200 million of ARR and are still doubling. Like the companies in software history that reach what I would call triple-digit growth at triple-digit scale, those triples, that's extraordinary. And any company that did that in the prior era went on to become household names. And we believe we're investing in those kinds of companies. Elise is doing it in property management. Legora and EvenUp are doing it in the legal field.
Space,
A Bridge is doing it in healthcare. It's just an extraordinary group of businesses.